If a man can't step up, step away. If you tell a man, hey, do you really like me? Do you want to be with me? And he can't step up to that plate and he's confused and says, give me more time, I don't know, step away. Any man who can't step up for your depth, your worthiness, your vulnerability, your heart, you have to step away. Because anytime you don't step away, if a man doesn't step up, you invite in more and more experiences like that. And what it takes to step away from a man who can't step up is believing that you are worth more than this. You are worth more than a man who can't step up for all of you. And that belief is what will allow you to step away from men like that constantly. Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of the New Age Sage podcast. Today, we're diving into two modern dating nightmares, horror stories. We've all been through these two things, and they've crushed us, they've ruined us, but we've gotten back up stronger and gone back out in the world to only experience them again and again. And, you know what, try and guess these two things. I mean, you probably saw them on the title, but if you were to ask anyone what are the two worst things to right now in dating, they would be these two things. You know, going through them is worse than, you know, watching the scariest horror movie ever. That is a horror movie. Life's horror movie is experiencing these two things. So, to not keep you waiting anymore, those two things are situationships and ghosting. And those, I paired them together in this episode because those two things tend to go hand in hand. Like, you know, I can't think of an analogy that nothing to do with sports. And ladies, I apologize for that. And these things are like the dynamic duo, like any, you know, great athletic pair. These things go hand in hand, right? You get in a situationship, you get ghosted, you feel like shit, you feel unworthy, you feel unlovable, then you carry that energy forward and you meet someone even worse because you believe you're not worth shit. So just a toxic, horrible, perpetuating cycle that I'm here to tell you doesn't have to stay. In life, I've learned this lesson, and it's a hard one to accept, but it's the truth. We are not a victim to reality. We attract reality. If we're constantly in situationships and we're constantly getting ghosted, I've been there, I still am there sometimes, I'm with you all. We are creating an energetic match for that experience. So we are actually calling in the experience of a situationship and ghosting because that's a experience our soul or our unconscious wants to learn something or gain something or to reveal something to us. So we are not victims to situationships. We're not victims to ghosting. We are creating those experiences. Now this podcast will dive into why are we creating situationships? Why are we getting ghosted? Why are we ghosting? When we figure out the answers to those questions, they'll stop happening and we can entertain the possibility of a new reality. So right now, be honest with yourself and accept the situationships I've been in, the times I've been ghosted. Those are realities I took part in. I was not a victim to that. My wounding, my pain, my inability to see the truth in someone got me here. I entertained a situationship. I gave myself to someone who had the potential to ghost me. I couldn't see that they were a horrible human being before they ghosted me. That's all true, and we have to face that to move forward in life. And look, it's not fun, you know. I don't like, I've slept with women, being vulnerable here. I've slept with women. I had a great date. I liked them. We were intimate, and they ghosted me. Literally, like we had sex. It was a great night. And I got ghosted, and when I was younger, I'll put all the blame on them. They're a horrible person. They suck. Like what the hell? But then I realized that yeah, that's that anyone who ghosts after having sex with someone, unless it was like a horrible assault experience, if it wasn't, then what kind of person does that? And the fact that I couldn't see that, the fact that I couldn't recognize the potential in someone to be that sadistic and horrible, that's my fault. I jumped into bed with someone I had no business being in bed with because I didn't validate them as a human being. I let myself enter someone who I didn't vet and who I didn't properly give time to reveal themselves to me. That's on me. That's my fault. Now, that's the background we have to accept here, that we are creating these experiences. We are creating the experiences of a situationship. We are creating the experience of a ghosting. Now, let's dive into how that happens. So, first, let's dive into situationships. Now, in my research, so shockingly, we are in an era of reality where situationship, the word, is in the Oxford English Dictionary. What? I was not expecting that. So, according to the Oxford English Dictionary, which is the highest standard of dictionary and linguistics, the definition is a romantic or sexual relationship that is not considered to be formal or established. Okay, that's actually a very astute, precise, laconic, and exactly correct statement. Let's unpack these linguistics and these words. Okay. A dynamic that is not formal or established. So two people are in a situation where there's no boundaries, there's no formal language around what this is. So it's two people confused, entering romantic situations, dates, sex, being vulnerable, cuddling, without any establishment of anything, okay? So whether or not you are enjoying the experience of a situationship, you have to accept that anything aimless, without intention, without any boundaries, without any clear communication, is a procrastination and perpetual avoidance of being responsible and facing and accepting what you really want. Do you really want a situationship? Do you really want to be in a state of perpetual confusion and not knowingness and feeling not worthy of someone and you have to wait around? No, not at all. I don't believe anything in life should be aimless and non-intentional, where you're meandering into nothingness, into the abyss with no sight of anything. Like, when would you ever do that in life, right? Think about this, right? If you take your job seriously and you have a defined role, you have clear tasks where you're not confused about it. If you went to your boss and your boss is like, hey, let's say you're a journalist, right? And your boss is like, hey, in 2 weeks, I need a proposal for a groundbreaking new exposition of a thing that's not uncovered in reality, that people are not seeing, that's causing problems in the world, right? And you go to your boss 2 weeks later and you say, yeah, I don't know. Just trust me. I don't know what this is, but I'll come up with something eventually. That boss is going to look at you and say, you're fired. I mean, like, you're fired. Like, what the hell, right? That standard is only applied to situationships now, romantically, where it's even more important, right? Like, no boss would ever accept a proposition or proposal for a work project that has no aim, that's just meandering into nothingness. That standard should be applied to everything in life, especially romantically, because your romantic life, your romantic partner dictates your experience of reality. The most important decision anyone can make in life is the partner they choose forever, right? Because if you think of it, the most unhappy, self-masochistic people, it's people who are in horrible partnerships or who got divorced. So that decision is paramount over anything. So why are you treating it like so lacklusterly, where there's no nothingness? It just pure confusion and there's no clear sight. Anything meaningful in life needs direction, clarity, and purpose. So why are you not giving that same standard to your romantic life? Why are you being so confused? Why are you okay with something being so lackluster and meaningless? Sit with that. Now, I'm going to try to answer that. Why this exists, okay? If we are honest with ourselves, we entertain situationships because we are terrified of revealing our vulnerability, right? All it takes to end a situationships is literally saying, hey, I like you, and because I like you, I want to know where you're at. And any sensible person responds to that saying, oh shit, I like you too. I'm actually pretty intentional now about seeing you and only you, or, I like you, but I'm not ready for exclusivity. Whatever it takes, that prompt takes 5 seconds. I like you. Where are you at? I think it's like 7 words. I'm bad at math, but it's literally 7 or 8 words. I like you. Where are you at? That's all it takes to exit a situationship. Now, most people can't say that. If you've been in any situationship where you really like the person you're dating, you can't say that sentence, right? So what inside me is not letting me say 7 or 8 words? What possible emotion is so strong that I can't say that statement? Look deep inside yourself and ask yourself this. Now, my answer to that is a deep terror of being alone. I'd rather entertain a situation with someone where I'm not clear if they like me and I'm proving myself to them constantly. I'm insecure. I don't know where they're at. I'm doubting myself. That pain is more familiar and more comfortable than being alone and feeling like I'm not worthy of love. I'd rather experience a situation which is kind of shitty than be alone and feel unworthy. Right? So that's the first barrier, fully accepting our helplessness and unworthiness when we're alone. That's the first obstacle that has to be overcome to be able to say a statement like, hey, do you like me? Because when we ask, hey, do you like me? Where are we? You're risking them saying, no, I'm actually here to fuck you. And then you go back to being alone and facing that same wounding. So overcoming that is the first obstacle to overcome. Now, the next one, I mean, pretty obviously, is feeling rejected, right? Again, if you say, hey, I like you, where are you at? And then say, hey, I don't like you, I don't want to be with you anymore, you are not feeling rejected, right? So what does that mean? If we fear rejection, it means that we are placing our self-worth and our sense of feeling loved fully on someone who has no business dictating that for us. Giving our need to love ourselves to a person who has just had sex with us a couple times and hasn't revealed anything noteworthy or vulnerable, they are now dictating whether we like ourselves. Think about that. Like, your ability to like yourself is now attached to someone who hasn't proven anything to you in terms of whether they're a worthy partner. You're not placing all of that on them. That's a high task to give to someone that has no business in giving that to you. The only person worthy enough to give you a valid perception of whether you're worthy of love or not is you. Because it's the only one that's constant. It's the only one that's true and that knows you better than anyone. And it's the only one that's constant and can constantly be called back on to feel that love. So that also has to be looked at and faced and overcome, that I can't gift this person who I barely know, who I kind of have a crush on, to hold the keys to all my self-worth. Because if I ask them if they like me and they don't like me, and they say, and I now feel rejected, it's because I gave them the ability to dictate my self-worth. And that can't really occur if you want to be a sensible human being. Now, the last one here I can identify is, again, if we really are terrified of saying, hey, do you like me, where are we at? The fear in that is that if you say no, if you reject me and you say, I don't want to be with you, I always here to have sex with you, I don't know where I'm at, that then is a perfect excuse to confirm the belief that we are unlovable. And people who constantly entertain situationships where they're terrified of revealing their vulnerability and saying they like you and want to know where you're at, they're terrified of revealing that, because then if you say no, you're repeating the confirmation that you are unlovable, right? If you feel really unlovable, you're going to constantly entertain situations where people aren't loving you, because it's confirming your own belief of yourself. And that causes you to not be able to ask people, hey, do you like me? Where are you at? Because you don't want to face that reality you believe about yourself. So to combat that, you have to understand that every single person in the world is loved and worthy of love, even the worst of humanity. If the worst person in humanity is worthy of love, so are you. God loves us all, whether you believe in that or not. Jesus loves us all. Muhammad loves us all. Buddha loves us all. Anyone in the world can feel the energy of love. And you're telling me you can't. You're telling me you are so unlovable because maybe your parent didn't like you the way you wanted to be liked, or ex rejected you, that you're now going to ruin your chances of love because you don't feel it? Nah. And lastly, We can have this fear of being alone. We can have this fear of rejection. We can have this fear of being unlovable, not address any of it, and still entertain some form of intimacy. That's what a situationship is I can entertain a low stakes version of intimacy without having to address or face my fear of being alone, my fear of rejection, my fear of being unlovable. It's a perfect remedy, albeit it's a terrible remedy, to salvage and satiate and nourish our wounds. We're licking our wounds, but we're not healing them, right? That's what a situationship is. We're like licking our wounds of being terrified of being alone, being terrified of intimacy, but we're not doing anything about them because we're still getting a microdose of what we want, right? We're getting a microdose of what we actually need and want. And we can only accept the microdose because we can't overcome the things that are causing us to need the microdose. So think about this, right? If you did not care about being alone, you're okay with being alone, you welcomed it, you didn't give someone the power to reject all of you just by saying, I don't want to be with you anymore, and to dictate your self-worth based on someone else's perception of you, and you knew you were lovable, and you knew you were worthy of love from everyone and anything, of course you would ask for clarity in a situationship, right? Someone who says, hey, do you like me? Where are you at with me? Do you want to be with me? Someone who can ask that freely in a romantic adventure is someone who is okay with being alone because they would rather be alone than be with someone who doesn't want to be with them. They're okay with being rejected by someone because one person's rejection doesn't dictate their self-worth. They don't hand someone the power to dictate all of their self-worth just because they don't like them romantically. And they know that they are lovable. So one person saying, hey, I don't want to love you, doesn't mean shit because they know that that's not the whole truth. That person would ask for clarity. Now, to combat the potential that I may sound like I'm on a high horse here, I've been through this shit nonstop. I've only just recently in the past couple of months or year, been able to be the person who is able to ask that question freely. Hey, do you like me? Where are you at? I've only just been able to create that because I've overcome these barriers, because I'm not afraid of being alone. I don't care about being rejected nearly as much. And I know I am worthy of love. And because those boxes are checked, I have no problem asking those questions. And asking that question is how you escape a situationship. So, to reveal the most potent and cliche and worst situationship I've had that caused the most damage in my experience, let me tell you a little story. So, I was 22. I had just graduated college. I'd broken up with my ex-girlfriend of a year or two, who I loved. I was in a wounded place. I had just relapsed for a couple of days on drugs and alcohol. I'm an addict, FYI. I was in a very vulnerable spot. I was seeking salvation. I was seeking meaning. I was seeking responsibility. I was seeking validation. I was seeking anything to confirm the fact that I wasn't a miserable piece of shit, unworthy of love. And when someone's in that space, they're dangerous because they'll attract in the worst circumstances in life to prove that belief that I'm worthy. So that was me. It was painful. And of course, the mecca of confirming to myself I'm not a miserable, unworthy, ugly piece of shit was in attracting the most physically beautiful woman I could imagine. And that's what I did. I was living in LA. I was buying some clothes at a store, and this, supermodel looking lady, who I thought was the most attractive woman I'd seen, purely physically, looked like Megan Fox in Transformers, and any guy who's real with themselves, it's like any guy's crush. I was like, whoa, this is awesome. And she was being pretty forward with me. And I was sitting there like, how can the most attractive woman I've seen physically not only be curious about me, but be fully invested in thinking that I'm attractive or whatever? I was so dumbfounded and confused. And I was like, if that's true, man, I'm the shit. if this beautiful hot woman likes me, man, I'm the shit, right? And we started dating, and we would walk around LA holding hands. Every guy we walked past, their neck was snapped and looked at me like I was king, or like with deep envy and hatred, like why you, right? And I got high off that shit because I had a super hot woman with me. It now meant I wasn't a worthless, ugly, unworthy piece of shit addict who hurt a woman I deeply loved, who didn't accomplish anything in his life yet, who still felt like scum. And that woman was me licking my wounds. She was the temporary plaster I put on severe scarring, severe cuts, severe burns. And because I gave her so much power, because she now was a solution to all my ailments, all my wounding, I was so scared of losing her because it meant losing myself, losing everything good in myself. I projected all the good in me to this woman just because she was hot. She's kind of boring, honestly. She was nice, but she was boring. She had no depth. She was hot, but I'm just being honest here. There was nothing deeper there. It was purely egoistic attachment to feeling empowered by someone else's aesthetic. And because of all this, I never asked where we were at. I never asked if she really liked me. I never asked, hey, what's your intention here? Hey, where are you at romantically? She actually told me in our first date, like, haha, boyfriend, like, no way, It's literally the plot of 500 Days of Summer. I heard that and went through one year without the other. I was like, psh. With me, I'm gonna be the guy to break that shit. Because I wanted to be the guy to break that shit. I just ignored it. But the truth is right there in the first date. If I heard that now, I would have been like, see ya, peace. And I think a month or two passed by. I was in love. I mean, a very shallow, egoistic form of love. It wasn't really love. It was like this, like, ego love. I finally grew the balls to say something, but it wasn't in a way to honor her or me. It was a way for me to, like, possess her. I'll say why. I wrote this, like, super soppy, albeit well-written love letter, that was straight bars. It was heat. I'm a writer. It was heat. It was good. And I wrote this, like, this very revealing, vulnerable thing any woman wants to hear as to, like, why I liked her, what side of me she was bringing out, the kind of man I'm becoming by just knowing her. But then at the end, I stuck this little closer of, like, because of all this, I would like to make you my girlfriend. Damn. I lost my man card right there. So she was, like, swooning and reacting, and I felt her sexual energy coming on, like she was gonna pounce on me. and then that little sentence come, and I heard a like a oh, like she got hit in the gut. And the worst part is, I couldn't even look at her while she was reading this thing. I was looking at the fucking fridge. I was in my apartment. She was sitting behind me on the couch reading it. I was looking at the fridge because I was so nervous. I couldn't even look at her while she was reading it. I couldn't even say it to her face to face. I was like a little kid with a fucking love letter, giving this to her. And man, that was a painful place to be in. And then, of course, she immediately was like, what the fuck? Like, we have never talked about any of this, and you're just sticking the girlfriend title on me. And it was a selfish thing to do because I just wanted her to be mine. When you want someone to just be yours for egoistic reasons, and most men are like this in love because they just like the way you look, it has nothing to do with you as a person. It's just to like own you. And I wanted to own the infinite potential and constant reminder that I am hot shit, that I am worthy. I'm not a piece of shit. I'm this powerful being who can attract hot girls. And she, of course, was like, hey, this is too much for me. Let's be exclusive. I'm not really interested in anyone else. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll take that. That's a win. I became a little soppy chicken, but I'll take exclusivity. And then, of course, in 2 days, I think she was just saying that nicely to not let me down right there. And then 2 days, she dumped me. And thank God I took that like a man. She said, hey, I'm not interested in you anymore. I was like, oh, great, no problem. I get it. And I just walked away and never talked to her since. And I think that's what men should do. Respect the woman's decision and just walk away. Any self-respecting man should do that. And I was in a lot of pain because I now realized that all of me, all of my self-worth was attached to a hot woman just because she was hot. I didn't face that reality, but that was an ugly thing to look at in the mirror. That me as a man, my entire self-worth is attached to me being with a hot woman, even if that hot woman doesn't really like me. And that's a sad reality to be in. And I wasn't that. And it took a while to break out of that. But returning to the point of this podcast, that situation could have been very different if, 2 weeks in, when we've been on many dates, had sex, had a dynamic where I was like, hey, where are you at? Do you just want a non-labeled experience of freedom with no attachment? If so, I can't give that to you because I like you, and I'll just be lying to myself if I entertain that. Or, do you like me? Do you want to explore this? We don't have to put a label on it, but is your intention to eventually lead to something potentially of, union or something like that? Are you just here to be freely hedonistic and to use me as a piece of meat, or are you here because you see something in me long term? And I could have checked in with that throughout the process, and any self-respecting person would have, and me now would do the same thing. Things may have played out differently if I did that, because she would have seen, this is a self-respecting man. He isn't just after a month or two just trying to make his girlfriend out of nowhere. He's so scared of being vulnerable. Thank God they did not work that way, because we were not compatible at all. And I don't know what the hell I was thinking. She was a perfect mirror of me seeing my deeply low self-worth, my shame, and my self-hatred and disgust. And I apologize to her that I used her for that, to realize that. And that wasn't good. If most men are real with themselves, they'll just use attractive women as a way to prove to themselves that they're worthy and not pieces of shit. And I apologize to every woman that I've made be that person for me. And I'm committed to not making that a reality anymore. Because no one deserves that, myself included. To do a better job than me, than what I experienced, all it takes is really just doing this. You have to create an opportunity for a man to step up, right? What that means is, when you invite a man to step up, you ask him, hey, what are your intentions with me? Do you really like me for me? Do you like my soul? Do you like my heart? Do you not only just like my looks? Is there something deeper here? And are your intentions to honor that depth? When you invite in a man to step up like that, you get all you need, because if a man can't step up, step away. If you tell a man, hey, do you really like me? Do you want to be with me? And he can't step up to that plate, and he's confused and says, give me more time, I don't know, step away. Any man who can't step up for your depth, your worthiness, your vulnerability, your heart, you have to step away. Because anytime you don't step away from a man who doesn't step up, you invite in more and more experiences like that. And what it takes to step away from a man who can't step up is believing that you are worth more than this. You are worth more than a man who can't step up for all of you. And that belief is what will allow you to step away from men like that constantly. Any self-respecting woman has the ability to constantly step away from men who can't step up to her. And why would you want to be with a man who is too afraid to step closer to your heart? That's just not worth your time. Your heart should be deeply held, honored, respected, and cherished. And if a man can't step up to do that, you have to step away. Because your heart is the most precious thing in the world. And if someone doesn't have the capacity or the willingness to take care of that heart, you gotta step away. That's the most self-respecting thing you could do as a woman. Because when you someone who can step away from men who don't step up believes that, you should believe, there are so many men who are ready to step up to you in all of your beauty, to hold your heart, to be vulnerable, to feel you, to be present with you, to honor you, to cherish you. There's so many men out there that will do that for you. All it takes is you stepping away from men who can't do that and allowing men who can do that to truly step up to you and hold your heart. All you have to do is just keep stepping away from the boys who can't step up to you. Now, I have an exercise to make this a concrete reality. I carry this coin in my pocket wherever I go. And I carry it because it says memento mori. And on the back of it, it says, you could leave life right now. Why do I carry this thing? Literally because of situations like this. Memento mori means essentially you can die any second. Your potential for death is, we as humans are so vulnerable to death. We're all going to die, and it can happen at any second, truthfully. And even if we live a long life, it's pretty short. Anyone who's on their deathbed looks back and says, man, that was a fucking quick ride. And because I know it's a quick ride, and because I know I could die any second, why would I entertain people who don't want the best for me, who don't want to step up for me, who don't want to cherish me, hold me, and honor me? Life is way too short to entertain shitty situationships because I'm afraid to be vulnerable. Whenever I feel that fear to be vulnerable, for example, literally, yesterday, I had a situation romantically where I had to be vulnerable to risk the potential of ending a situationship. And I just looked at this coin. I was like, do I really want to look back in my life and have wasted months or a year being with someone where I was just with them because I was too afraid to be vulnerable? I was too afraid to risk being alone. I was too afraid to lose someone just because I didn't want to lose myself. When you're facing a situation where you're afraid to take that step to say, hey, I like you, I really like you, and I want you to honor the fact that I like you. Can you honor the fact that I like you? Where are you at? We're all going to feel afraid to ask that question if we like someone. But when you look at this coin, you remember the fact that you're going to die. Could be tomorrow. Could be in a month. You remember that this is, I can't waste time with this. Like, when I could be with someone who truly honors me and cherishes me and steps up for me. Why would I waste any time being with someone who doesn't do that? I could die tomorrow. Like, I don't believe in rushing in life and being frantic, but like there is some truth to moving with some speed here. Like, life is way too short to be with someone who doesn't want to be with you. Think about that. Life is way too short to be with someone who doesn't really want to be with you. Get going. Get moving. Okay. Now, there's the other side of this. I think I'm only even discussing people on the side of situationships where they're the ones who want something more, but they don't want to reveal it because they're afraid of losing certain things. But there's also the other side of this where we entertain situationships because we just want some intimacy, and it's a low stakes way of not being in real love, leading someone on, and just scratching that itch. But it's unfair because when we scratch the itch we need for some intimacy with someone who actually likes us and wants more, and we lead them on and confuse them, it's deeply selfish because we're using someone at the expense of just our own hedonistic desires. Now, I've been that guy. I just wanted to have sex with a hot girl and feel seen and cared for. And it was all at their expense, and it was a horrible thing to do. And I've done it many times. Honestly, I've been that guy. And I'm not proud of it. I don't like it. I don't like the fact that I've used women just for sex and attention when they wanted more, just because I needed to scratch that itch to feel worthy and seen at their expense. No one deserves that. I was in no business to do that. But when I was in that stage, the woman who called me out on my shit and escaped that situationship taught me the biggest lesson I had to learn in teaching you all now what it takes to escape a situation like this, which was essentially one situation. A girl and I met, and it was very hot off the bat, a lot of fire, a lot of attraction. She was very attractive. We were very attracted to each other, but I knew there wasn't a depth there I was looking for. She was just very attractive, very nice, and I was like, oh, fun. It's fun. She's hot. She's nice. She's got a nice body. Ooh, I can satiate my horniness. Great. And, we were intimate once, went on one date. We're talking, texting. And then women are intuitively powerful. You all know if a guy doesn't like you. A female intuition always knows if a man doesn't like her. And why would you keep entertaining that when you know? Just ask. Just confirm your intuition and say, hey, do you actually like me? Because you know. So why would you be with someone who you know doesn't like you? That's a real question to ask yourself. And this woman asked herself that. And she sent me a message saying, hey, your communication has become inconsistent. I can sense you don't really want to see me beyond just physicality. Let me know if that's the case. No hard feelings. And I was like, whoa, I've never experienced that. What an awesome woman. And I said, hey, you're right. I'm deeply sorry that I didn't reveal this sooner. That is where I'm at. And she liked the message, and I haven't seen her since. I apologized to her higher self and soul that was the experience I created for us. But that's how you get out of that shit. She was vulnerable enough and brave enough to say, hey, I don't think you like me. I think you're just using me for sex. Is that the case? And I said, yes. And she went on with her life. And she moved one step closer to a man who could step up for her because I stepped away for her. And I'm not saying that was anything noble of me. I was just being a fucking scumbag. And because I've been through this, and I've been that guy, and I've generated negative karma from that experience, or many like that, I don't do my best to be very honest where I'm at. As soon as I know what's up, I will say it. It's okay not to know for a date or two or a week or two, but beyond that, we all really know, and we know something. We can say, hey, I'm a little confused. I like you physically. I like you a little bit emotionally, but I don't have what I need to really take you that seriously. Either you can give me more time, or you can just feel like that's not what I'm worth and walk away. We can always be honest with where we're at, even if where we're at is a little confusing. Just reveal that and give someone the choice to entertain that experience, knowing your truth. So to get here, to be someone like that, if you find yourself constantly on that side of situationships, and we've all been on either side, you need to be that person who communicates to stop attracting people who don't. You attract what you are. And if you're someone who is lazy, ruthless, and selfish in communicating in situationships, you're going to attract the opposite experience until you correct it. That's the way karma works, or life works. And the key I've noticed in overcoming this is when you're a nice person and you care about people's feelings, you have an irrational instinct to not want to disappoint someone, right? You fear disappointing someone, hurting their feelings. And that's why you just don't say where you're at and you don't reject them, because you'd rather just have sex with them and be nice to them because you don't want to make them feel that way. But the truth is, the more you delay the potential rejection or disappointment, the more you actually hurt them. And because you avoid this fear of disappointing someone, you end up hurting people more. So you think you're being nice by not disappointing someone or rejecting someone, but you're actually being a dick. Because a real nice person would overcome that fear of hurting someone and not being liked, and just say, "Hey, this is where I'm at," and risking like that person will probably not like you. Like that person who asked that question, I said, "Hey, this is where I'm at," and she just didn't like me anymore and talked bad about me, rightfully so. I had to risk that, and that's what a good person does. A good person risks not being liked to tell the person the truth, because that truth can save them from pain in the long run. So you got to be that person. Often with situationships, ghosting comes along with it too. They come hand in hand, sadly. For example, we're having a fling with someone, and there's different. I'll discuss there's different levels of ghosting. There's different severities to it, but we've all experienced each level, right? You could be in a talking stage, get ghosted. You could be literally have had sex with someone multiple times, and they just ghost you. Situationships and ghosting come hand in hand, because even like a talking stage or a little fling without any intimacy is still a situationship, because it's still following the definition of a romantic exchange that has unclear boundaries. So any situationship that ends with ghosting was a situationship. Like they go hand in hand. Okay. So, and I'll present basically how to deal with ghosting and see it in a way that's more empowering. Because when we get ghosted or see ghosting, we just like lose all power. We feel like victims, and we're never a victim to our circumstances. Everything's in our highest benefit. You gotta live life of pronoia, that the universe is conspiring for me, not against me. And being a victim to ghosting fits the paranoia category, that like the world's out to get me. People are ghosting me. Like, how could this possibly be? But when we have pronoia, we can see ghosting as a gift. So I'll get there eventually. But okay, the first terrible level of ghosting, which is like abominable and sadistic and insane, is a complete disappearance after genuine physical and emotional intimacy. You've had sex with them, you've been vulnerable, you've expressed you like each other, and they just ghost you. That is energetic assault. That is sadistic. Sadism is taking pleasure in someone's pain. And if you're having sex with someone to inevitably ghost them, you're literally taking pleasure, sexual pleasure, in someone's destruction. That is horrible, psychopathic, narcissistic, and truly disgusting. So if someone ghosts you after being emotionally and physically intimate, that is a perfect sign that they are a real piece of shit scumbag, and they protected you from further attachment. This person, people who do this kind of thing, who ghost after being intimate with someone, are the scum of the earth. They're actually a soul sucker. It's literally energetic assault. They're sucking your life force out of you. You should want nothing to do with them. So the sooner this kind of person ghosts you, the sooner you have a potential to just completely just get that person out of here. Good riddance, please. And when someone like that ghosts us, right? When we have sex with someone and we're vulnerable with someone and they ghost us, we all take it so personal. I've been there. I've taken it personal as shit. I've had multiple experiences where I've had sex with someone and revealed myself to them nakedly, literally and emotionally and physically. And I felt seen by them, and they just ghosted me. I took it so personally. I was like, man, this person's seen all of me. They've seen me naked. They've seen my genitals. They've seen my inner nakedness, my vulnerabilities, and they just ghosted me. They just want nothing to do with me. I would take it so personally. I would cry sometimes. I would, talk to my therapist and feel really hurt. But then I realized, like, why would I take something personal from someone who has the psychopathic capacity to be intimate with someone and then ghost them? That person should have nothing to do with my self-worth. Why the hell should I care about what someone thinks about me if they have the psychopathic, sadistic potential to ghost me? Like, you should derive no self-worth or no opinion from someone who has the capacity to ghost someone who they're intimate with. So that should never even be a possibility. Again, memento mori. I'm going to die. I should not place any importance on what someone who has the capacity to ghost me thinks about me. Fuck that. What they think about you is completely irrelevant now because they prove their psychopathy. So, good riddance. And let's unpack the linguistics of ghosting. I think that our collective unconscious minds create these words for a certain reason, right? So, okay, ghosting. Okay, what does the word ghost mean to most of us? The word ghost most usually has a negative connotation. I've had spiritual encounters, or good ghosts or bad ghosts, but for the most of us, we perceive ghosts as like spooky, scary. You can't see them; they disappear, right? And that essentially is the definition of a demon, right? A scary, spooky thing that is beyond physical reality, that can cause harm and cause fear. That's a demon, literally or metaphorically. Let's say metaphorically for now, okay? So when someone ghosts, they reveal their demonic nature. That's what the linguistics and the language here shows us, that when someone ghosts, they become a demon, and we can see their true nature. So when someone ghosts you, just see that. See, they prove their demonic nature. Good riddance. I want nothing to do with you. I'm not protected from that experience. The sooner I got ghosted by you, the sooner I now have a reality where that's nothing to do with me. Now, this is that's like the most severe level of ghosting. The next level of ghosting, which I think is experienced a lot more commonly. I've experienced this probably like 50 times. I'm not kidding you. I think most of us who in the dating world who've been single for a long time have also experienced this. And this is talking stage ghosting, which means you've been texting, you match on a dating app, you sit in someone's DMs, you met someone at a party and you've been texting, or you've been on one date or two. You may have made out, no sex. You're a talking stage, right? The truth is, this one is complicated. This is not cut and dry, right? It's not as cut and dry as someone ghosting you when you had sex. That's just unforgivable, demonic, and just truly repugnant and disgusting. This is more complicated because the reality is people are busy, they forget, or they just are insecure. They feel unworthy of your, like, they think this person likes me. Like, I don't even know if they like me. I'm so confused. Or they'll use that insecurity to like be like, I don't know if I'm worth this. This person's a great person. I don't know if I'm worth this kind of level of depth and love or potential of it. So they'll use that negative feeling to avoid answering. And then days passed and they're like, man, it's been too long now. I look like a dumbass. I'm just not going to answer. Right? So a lot of ghosting and talking stages is just people who are insecure, feel unworthy, and they'll use that as a way to avoid answering. And then they'll just like, days will pass and they'll just ghost because they're too scared to acknowledge their mistakes. So they just ghost out of fear. A fear not being enough, a fear of being seen as bad. And in these moments, that's the truth. Or they could literally just be like a bad communicator, they don't like you, and they're just like, they change their minds. That's also a possibility. But I do think most of the time it's actually just like some form of insecurity. So I recommend to call someone forward in these moments. If you like them, if you actually like them, to be brave enough to call them forward. So I literally just did this. It wasn't ghosting, but I met someone twice at two like nights out, There was a very heavy flirtatious exchange, a lot of attraction. There's a lot of, you could feel it. It was obvious. And in person, we're both fiery and very forward and kissy. But then we both over text were kind of like not great. And I was a little better, but I wasn't great. And the second time I saw her out, I was like, hey, we talked, hey, we're gonna get better at this communicating thing. So I texted her the next day, being like, hey, how you feeling? Right, because it was a long night. And I told her I'd text her. I'm not a big texter, but I told her I'd text her. And she didn't answer me for 3 days. And thankfully, I'm in a place now where I'm like, I just trust my higher self that if a situation doesn't pan out, it's all good. But 3 days passed. She got back to me saying, hey, I was sick. I'm sorry. And my eyebrow went up. Like, I've been sick. You can say, hey, I'm sick. I'll text you when I'm better. I was just there with someone. I was sick with someone, and it was the same person. I was sick. I was like, hey, I'll get back to you in a couple of days. I'm really sick. It takes like 2 seconds. So I sent a voice note where I said, hey, usually I don't forgive this lapse of communication, multiple days of no answering, but I'll forgive it because you're sick. I like you. I want to see you again. Let me know where you're at. Because sometimes when we take days to respond, it could mean that we just want to be nice and we're just not ready to reject this person and we don't know if we like them. I'm cool. I honestly am cool with either case. It's all good. Just let me know. And she responded back saying, no, I really like you. I'm invested here. I'm sorry. Like, I want to see you. Let's plan on seeing each other. I'll do whatever you want. And all it took was me being honest, communicative, and giving her a chance to step up, right? I gave her a chance to step up. She stepped up, so I did not step away. And just get in the habit of doing that. Like, why not? If you like this person, you don't know what's going on in their minds. You don't know what's going on in their lives. Give them the benefit of the doubt and just say, hey, I like you. Do you like me? What's going on here? And call someone forward. Now, if they don't answer that, then they really ghosted you and then they're not worth your time. Again, they didn't step up, step away. But just get in the habit of doing that. Like, why not? What do you have to lose? You like this person? What do you have to lose? Who the fuck knows? Usually I would just take that. Again, I would just say, hey, she didn't answer for 3 days. I'm done. It's a wrap. But that's just my pride and my lack of understanding in someone else's mental trauma or stories or life. You got to give people a chance or two, or the benefit of the doubt when you barely know them and you're just starting to see each other. Like, who knows? If that happened like, months into dating, that's a different story. But you don't even know this person. Like, you don't know what they're going through. You don't know what their lives are like. Who knows? Now, if they do actually ghost in the initiatory phases of dating, if you send this like follow up and they actually just ghost you, or you don't even feel like it, they just ghost you, right? It is divine protection. When we get ghosted in a talking stage, our ego thinks in that moment that this is the person for me. This was the right person for me. Like, how could this possibly be? Like, I thought this was the one. Again, how many times has your ego been right about that? How many times has your ego thought someone was the one or the right romantic partner and they just weren't? My ego's been right about that maybe twice and wrong maybe 200 times. So I just stopped trusting that voice, being like, hey, I love your ego, but you really don't know shit about this. Like, you've been wrong 99% of the time, 99.9% of the time. So you got to stop believing your ego's right about this shit. It'll never be right. Your ego only sees the now and bases their perception of what is right on literal theories that have no basis in reality. You don't know anything about this person, what they've been through. You're just operating off of theories and what you believe to be right, what you need to be right to feel safe. Now, your higher self, your spiritual guides, God, whatever you call it, if you don't believe in that, all power to you, but it's real. There is a part of you that sees beyond the right now, who knows way more than you, can see into the future, that is guiding you and has your best interest at heart. They truly know what's best for you. And the higher energy becomes, the higher your frequency becomes, the more brutal these guides and higher self becomes in maintaining that energy. Because imagine you had a kid who was bright, loving, vibrant, and they attracted this dud who was dark. You would protect your child and say, hey, what the fuck are you doing with this person? Like, you're vibing so high, like, get out of here, right? And my mother's my guide. She's passed away now. She's my head angel. Like, why would my mother want me to be with someone who she can see into the future would destroy me and not appreciate me and not really take care of me and not honor my heart? She's going to get that person away. She's like, hey, my son, I'd rather hurt your ego for a day than to hurt your heart for a year. That's what your higher self and guides are thinking. I would rather hurt your ego for a day than hurt your heart for a year. Trust that. Why would these angels let in someone who fills you with demons, who doesn't honor you, who would fuck with your energy and fuck with your frequency? They're not going to do that. So getting ghosted is divine protection most of the time. And again, I talked about maybe it's not when the person is just in their own insecure stories, and give that person a chance to step up. But if you're giving that person a chance to step up and they haven't stepped up and they ghosted you, that's protection. Sure, it feels shitty, but your ego's preferences can't run the show. So just trust that. You know, don't lose all your power in getting ghosted. Your ego's going to be hurt, but it's divine protection. An angel saved you. That's the truth. Okay. Now, to keep on the spiritual path here, karma is real. You know, the golden rule, Jesus' rule is real. Treat others the way you wish to be treated. It's real in life, because the more you treat people the way you want to be treated, the more you'll be treated that way. You know, that's the way karma works. I treat people the way they should be treated. And the more you do that, it's literally real life if you do it. If you're nice to people, people are going to be more likely to be nice to you. If you're a dick to people and you expect people to be nice to you, they're not going to be nice to you. So that's the way the world works. Be nice, receive nice. Be loving, receive love. Be caring, receive care. Be a good friend, receive a good friend. That's life. Now, when it comes to ghosting, if you are the kind of person who ghosts, you will attract people who ghost you. It's just the way life works. You really have to hold yourself to the standard. No forgiveness. If you're in any talking stage, even a little text, even one date, do not ghost. Don't do it. And we all fuck up sometimes. But whenever you fuck up, say, hey, the next time I'm not doing this shit. So I'll reveal someone, the situation out of the woman who just did this. You know, she came on super strong. She was a influencer I had a crush on for a while. Famous, hot, beautiful, my type, tapped in. She was very forward in her interest for me. Always, you know, being very flirtatious in our DM exchange. And I was like, hey, let's have a FaceTime date. She lives in somewhere in Europe. And she was like, yes, oh my God, let's do it. And then I suggested a day. And then she responded like 4 days later being like, yes, that day works. And I was like, cool, shoot me your number. And then never gets back to me. And now my ego, of course, is butthurt. You know, I thought this was the one for me. I thought this was a good partner, potential. Why? And I realized, thankfully, I'm at a stage now where it's like, ego, you don't know shit. Surrender. It's all good. And she then sends me 2 videos of herself saying, hey, I want to be the kind of person who reveals what happened and why I didn't get back to you. And she said that she had just started seeing someone and it was getting to a point of commitment, I believe. And she has a pattern of whenever it gets here, flirting with someone very attractive to just avoid that commitment and procrastinate it. And she wanted to end the pattern with me. And that she's, you know, that's just the truth. And she wanted to be honest with where she's at. Man, even though my ego is a little butthurt, I was so respectful and I was like, this woman is great. It makes you like her even more, but it's all good. Someone else can enjoy her, and that's beautiful. But man, deep respect. That level of honesty, I didn't need that. Like, she could have just said, "Hey, sorry, this isn't work for me," and left it at that. But she gave me a real explanation as to what happened. And because I can now see what happened and know the truth, I now didn't take it personally. Like, give someone the gift of not taking romantic rejection personally, saying, "Hey, this is all me. I have this pattern. I'm sorry I brought you into it, but this has nothing to do with you." Give someone that gift, and then that gift will be given to you, right? When you're not a ghoster, you will attract someone who's not a ghoster too. You will attract a person who's that good at communicating, but you have to become that good at communicating yourself. So within, so without. When you're a ghoster, you'll keep attracting ghosters until you correct that pattern. And you don't want to date someone seriously who is a ghoster because they're a bad communicator. So just get in the habit of doing this. It's a little risky and annoying at first, but once you get in the habit of doing it, you really stop caring. So, to conclude, the cohesive, pervasive talking point in this whole podcast has been: be radically honest in your communication. If you're in a situationship, say, "Hey, I like you. Where are you at?" Give them a chance to step up. If they can't step up, step away. And this is the same in ghosting. If you're talking to someone and they're taking days to respond back to you, just say, "Hey, I like you. I want to get to know you. It's all good. If you're done with that, just wanted to follow up with you." If they can't step up to that, step away. Take any time they step away as a blessing. Because when you step away from the person who is not meant for you, you are one step closer to the one who is. Let me say that again. When you take a step away from someone who isn't right for you, you move one step closer to the person who is. So whenever you enter a dynamic, a situationship, or you get ghosted or you get rejected, the ideology to move away from that butthurtness, that egoistic response, is just believing the truth that you are now one step closer to the person who's right for you because you had enough love in your heart to step away from someone who didn't see you in your worthiness. I'll end there. Remember this every time a fling ends or you get ghosted. You are now one step closer to the person who's right for you. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you want to watch more content, please click this video right here and don't forget to subscribe right here. Thank you.